boxing, you're gonna love this.
Hello and welcome to episode 29 of the BoxNation Podcast. I'm your host, Dev Sani, and this week I am joined by a man who would be utterly rubbish in the role of a prison guard. Why? Because this man takes no prisoners. It is, of course, Mr. Steve Lillis.
Hey, Dev, you get a new one every week. I think you think for a week what you're going to come up with. Am I being cruel to you there?
I've got a few in the bank, actually, so I've just sort of got the next few episodes all sorted. Are you good, Steve? You've been watching the World Cup?
Loving the World Cup. Really enjoyed it. I think Spain are the standout team so far. Everyone goes on, they let in 3 goals, but that was a freak match the other night. One was a penalty, one you could do nothing about, and one was a keeper's error. I think Spain are head and shoulders above everybody.
Big words, Steve. So you're not backing the 3 lions, lions in the camp, Harry Kane, all of that, lifting the World Cup. Imagine that.
No, I can't see them lifting any cup, mate. They get as far as the quarterfinals. Tunisia did a good job on them second half last night, and they got out of jail.
Okay, all right, Steve. Well, that's you're back in Spain, but I'll tell you what, I've got to get this in now. Here is who O'Hara Davis is backing to win the World Cup.
The World Cup's on, 2018 World Cup. I've been listening to what everyone's been saying about the World Cup. My predictions for this World Cup, I believe that Arsenal is going to win this World Cup this year. Even though I do support West Ham, I love West Ham, I support West Ham, but I just believe that Arsenal has it this year. I remember watching Arsenal play against England in 2007. Arsenal won 2-1. I think Dennis Bergkamp scored both goals. He was my favourite striker for Arsenal. Thierry Henry as well, and I think that David Seaman is an amazing goalkeeper and he's doing a great job. Arsene Wenger is going to be a very happy man, and I want to send, but I still support West Ham and I love West Ham, but 2018, Arsenal's going to win, and I feel like in 2019 World Cup, West Ham's going to win.
Now, Steve, he has to be trolling. He's killing me. He's he's done a follow-up video on his own YouTube page as well, saying that it's like discrimination, that Arsenal can't enter the World Cup, and like he can't deal with this sort of corruption in football. He's glad he's a boxer and not a footballer. What do you think?
You know what? I think there's also look, it's tongue-in-cheek. There's O'Hara putting himself out there, getting himself publicity, which is very, very good. He's a great self-publicist. Whether it's good or bad, he knows what to do. He makes people talk because he hasn't got a clue about football.
It's been very amusing, though, following his videos. Anyway, this week, we hear from Martin Murray ahead of his WBC silver middleweight title clash this weekend, live on BoxNation against Roberto Garcia. Horny Harvey Horn is on the show. Umar Sadiq, a little bit of Carl Frampton. We talk about Errol Spence and so much more. Turn up the volume because we are turning up the heat. It's another edition of the BoxNation Podcast. Enjoy. When Billy Joe Saunders pulled out of his scheduled world middleweight title defence with Martin Murray for the second time, there were concerns that the June 23rd O2 Arena show would be pulled altogether. But it hasn't. The show must go on, and the show is going on this Saturday night, live on BoxNation. Martin Murray has actually got himself a bit of a fight here in the main event. He takes on Mexican-American Roberto Garcia for the WBC silver middleweight title. Now, a win here could give him a really strong WBC ranking. Before long, he may be close to forcing a world title shot. Steve Lillis caught up with the St. Helens Bruiser.
First of all, the Billy Joe Saunders situation obviously left a nasty taste in your mouth. Is there a lot of sort of frustration when you get in there next week?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it left a lot of frustration in everybody's mouth. Just that, obviously, I was gutted about it. Took myself away from my family for 2 sets of 2 weeks, which is time you can never get back. You know what I mean? That's invaluable. That's all. I was obviously gutted. But yeah, the frustration, obviously all the frustration, I'm going to be taking it out on Garcia, who's been calling me out. He's been calling me out on Twitter, so he's wanted the fight. So it's he's going to get it, mate.
So, how difficult is it going to be going from Southpaw to Orthodox, given you've been training for a Southpaw all this year for months, and suddenly at 2 weeks it's all changed?
Yeah, but that's it. We've been training for a Southpaw runner, and now we've got an Orthodox who just comes forward. So complete opposite ends of the spectrum. But I'm a seasoned comparer, Steve. You know what I mean? I've been in with all types of fighters. We're just changing sparring now. Yeah, I mean, you know what? He's more suited to me than Billy Joe Saunders. Do you know what I mean? I won't have gone looking for this guy where I've had gone looking for Billy. So he's going to be in my face. He's going to be a tough fight. He's a good fighter. He's coming off a good unbeaten run and he's confident. Obviously, with him calling me out. So no, it's going to be a solid test, but it's going to be a good fight. I think this guy's made for me, and yeah, if I go in there and put on the performance and how I've been feeling, then obviously I'm going to be in for a good night.
Is it right? I mean, Francis Warren was telling me this morning, that if you make one defence of this title, you become mandatory contender.
Well, I'm not sure what the crack is with that. I just know with him being silver champion, me beating him puts me in a great position. I'm not sure what the crack could be with one defence and then, you know, being mandatory. I don't know, Steve, but I'm hoping that's the case, and I'm hoping that's where I'm going to get directed towards, because I've never ever been forced into a mandatory position. It's always been voluntary when I've fought people for the world title, voluntary defences. So getting put in a mandatory position puts me in more of a, you know, in a powerful position. So I've just got to focus on this fight, and you know what comes after it. Obviously, I'm hoping that it's something good, and I just want to get a good win under my belt and focus on the second half of the year. But just want to add, Steve, that you know, without me management, you know, MTK, I'm Frank Warren, I wouldn't have been in a fight like this, because it is a meaningful fight. Do you know what I mean? When Billy Joe pulled out for the second time, I thought the show's going to go under, I'm not going to fight. And then I thought, they might just give me a noddy, somebody that can blow over, you know, at least softens the blow a little bit, you know, pays a little bit of wages, you know, things like that. But then they've come up with this fight, they've been working the balls off, and they come up with this big fight. So I'm just even the one gutted about it not being for the world title fight, not fighting Billy Joe. I'm very grateful that I'm in this position fighting in such a meaningful fight, so I'm looking forward to it.
If there'd been no fight next week for you at the O2 Arena, and they said, right, we can't do nothing for you, you'll have to wait for a date, might you have walked away then?
I wouldn't have walked away. I'd have been, I think this year, I wouldn't have fought again this year, I don't think. Because the thing is, Steve, I've got, as you know, same with yourself, the most important thing for me is my family, you know, is my family life. And I've got stuff planned next month where I've got family holidays that Jem and the kids have been looking forward to all year. You know, we're away most of July and August. It's the beginning of August. So there was no way I was going to cancel that just for a fight and like put my life on hold and then a fight not happening again. So basically what I'm trying to say is I wouldn't put my life on hold anymore. So, you know, I'd have been more or less rolled off at the same. I'm climbing Everest in October for Steve Prescott Foundation till early November. So unless I'd have got a fight in September or a fight in late December or whenever, just before Christmas. Again, I'm going on a cruise at Christmas on the 17th of December. So I'd have been struggling to get a fight anywhere else, you know what I mean, Steve? So it's not that I'd have walked away from the sport, but I was pretty much prepared to say goodbye to this year, and you know, crack on with things next year.
All right then. So you're next week. Don King's coming into town as well to be against you as well. You got next week, so you'll have to listen to Don at the press conference.
Experience ways. I'm looking forward to that. He can say what he wants. I'm not arsed. It's just obviously he's a modern day boxing legend, isn't he? So yeah, it'll be entertaining next week when he's over at the press conference. That's for sure.
Now, Steve, pullouts happen. You know, there's going to be a lot of he said, she said. But thankfully, the show is going on this weekend. I'll tell you what, Martin Murray's got a bit of a fight, hasn't he?
He's got a very, very tough fight against a very good fighter indeed. I think Roberto Garcia, if you know, we look at his record, he come in with a might of Don King behind him. And also, if you look closely, he's lost once in more than 14 years. he lost a fight around May 2004, Dev, and he didn't lose again until 2010. And that was when he lost on points to Antonio Margarito in Margarito's last fight before he fought Pacquiao. And then went on to lose to Cotto. I think he just come off the defeat to Shane Mosley, Margarito, when they fought. And since then, he's won 13 on the spin, beat a decent fighter, Omar Chavez, last time out. And Martin's got it all to do this week. He might have, a lot more stacks in his favour being at home, and Garcia's coming, you can say, reasonably late, but Garcia was the one calling for the fight on Twitter. But it's a big ask for Martin. Isn't just that. He's now gone, as I said to Martin in the interview, you've gone from training 2 training camps for a southpaw who moves to suddenly you're fighting an orthodox fighter who ploughs forward. That might suit you a lot better than Billy Joe, but you've only got a couple of weeks to prepare for that. And, most of your sparring's done. So, it's not ideal for Martin either, but he wanted to keep busy. And this is a great opportunity. I understand that if you have one defence of this WBC silver, you become a mandatory challenger. And Martin's hell-bent on getting that 5th world title fight before he does retire. I mean, he certainly covered himself in glory when he fought Sturm and when he fought Martinez, when he was absolutely robbed. And even against Triple G in his pomp, he showed a lot of bravery and heart that night in Monte Carlo. He was poor against Abraham, in all fairness to him. Yeah, that has to be said, but that was at super middleweight.
You get the feeling with this one, if Martin Murray could pick a style to fight against, would it not be Roberto Garcia? Is it not a better fight for him? I know he's been training for Billy Joe Saunders, but Billy Joe Saunders, in theory, many people thought he was just going to outbox him, be too slick and be a little bit too fresh for Martin Murray. This guy, Roberto Garcia, he's no spring chicken. He's fought at the lower weights. He's fought Bradis Prescott down at welterweight. He's fought Margarito at 154 pounds. Martin Murray is a big man, and naturally a much bigger man than this. So I think this is all set up for Martin Murray. Stars are kind of aligning here. It might be a blessing in disguise for him that suddenly he could force a world title shot by picking up this belt.
Yeah, absolutely. The big problem he's got is the time he's had to prepare for this style of fighter. As I said, that is the one issue. If he had 7-8 weeks preparation for this type of fighter, I would have nailed my money on him. It's also what he's gone through mentally with Billy Joe pulling out on him. I mean, Martin made comments in the print media about that. We don't need to say any more. And it's what that mentally did to him, and the time he's had to prepare for this. But look, he's been a fantastic professional. 40-second fight coming up, and I'm sure Jamie Moore have him in a good place at the weekend.
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, you mentioned Billy Joe Saunders. So that fight, I mean, if it ever happens now, Martin Murray and Billy Joe Saunders, there's a lot more juice to that. It's a lot more exciting now, just because they've been going at it. The press conferences and everything before in the build-up, they were quite nice, quite respectful. You had kids following the other fighter on Instagram and things like that. But suddenly, you saw the Instagram videos going back and forth. Billy Joe Saunders went live, and it was full of expletives and offers of fights away from the ring. So if they were to fight in the ring, suddenly you got a bit of public interest there as well, even more so than before.
I think the word Billy Joe Saunders used was a straightener. And there's certainly, the bad blood is still there, and I think it makes for a more interesting straightener in the ring. That's for sure, if they ever fight.
And what about the rest of the card, Steve? So we'll hear from Horny Harvey Horn and Umar Sadiq later on in the show, who are boxing on the event. But what about the likes of Anthony Yarde, Ahara Davis, Daniel Dubois? Give me a take first on Anthony Yarde. It's his first southpaw opponent in Darius Sek.
Yeah, look, he's come in, people have gone on about the first southpaw, but I'm sure in sparring that they would have faced plenty of southpaws. It's the sort of thing that the trainer Tunde Ajayi's been looking out for. And look, you know what? he's just, he has a loss there against Robin Krasniqi, and people, he lost to Krasniqi. Krasniqi became a European champion last week. We are getting to the stage where I think Frank Warren will certainly want to put Anthony Yarde in a fight. I think he made offers, did he not in the past, of Buglioni, and never fell on. Yeah. And sex another, as Tunde says, it ticks another box, a southpaw opponent. And then, they move on from here. And if he stops him, kudos to him. No one stopped. He's only lost 3 times in 33 fights. Hasn't been stopped. Robert Wogue was unbeaten, beat him on points. Robin Krasniqi's now a European champion, and the other loss was to a Russian, I think he was based in Germany, Polyakov, who I'll be honest, I don't know a great deal about, so I'm not going to start waxing lyrical about him.
You feel with Anthony Yarde, I've no doubt that he will, before long, be making an assault on the upper echelon of the division and start targeting people with belts. I don't think he's there just yet, and I feel as though that they need to tick boxes first. And Tunde Ajayi is a very astute man. Frank Warren he's doing this for years, but they feel as though Anthony Yarde needs boxes ticked before he's fully ready to make that assault. And this is just one of them. I can't believe it's the first southpaw he's fought as an amateur or a pro. That's remarkable.
But yeah, he didn't have a lot of amateur fights. Let's get that, But look, we all want to see if this kid has got bags of potential, and we're all desperate to see. And I think that's what it is with a lot of people. We're desperate to see if he can fulfil it when he moves on to the higher end of European level, world level, and the best in Britain even.
Absolutely. We want to see Anthony Yarde stepped up even more and let off the leash. Talking about someone who is taking a little step up. How about this? Daniel Dubois against Tom Little, English heavyweight title. Dubois says he wants every belt. Steve, give me your final prediction on this. It's this Saturday live on BoxNation. What are you saying?
Oh, I think Tom Little will come in there, try. He's a fearless man. You can see that from the fights he takes. He fears nobody. He won't fear Daniel Dubois today, tomorrow, Friday at the weigh-in when they step in the ring. But I just feel that he'll give Dubois, make Dubois work and think for 2-3 rounds. And then I think Dubois' power will catch up with Tom and find him wanting around the 4th round, similar to what Filip Horjovich he fought in his last fight did. I can't look no further than Daniel for this one.
So you're going Dubois 4th round?
Dubois in 4, I'm going to go. And I'm sorry to my man Tom, who's a mate of mine.
Yeah, no, look, Tom Little, he's been good to be around. He's been good fun. I fancy Dubois to knock him out in 3 rounds as well. And I think you'll be playing this back on next week's show as another solid Sarnie prediction. So what about Ahura Davis against Paul Kamanga now? So Josh Lever pulled out. He's taken a break from boxing. And Ahura Davis, what do we think of Paul Kamanga?
Look, statistically, he's got a good record. 21 wins, 1 loss, started his career in South Africa. Now, I believe, and I'm not 100% sure because I haven't put the phone calls in, his last couple of fights have been on the south coast of England against Mikhail Avakayan and Christopher Sabera. We saw, I think he lost in Leeds recently to, was it Jack Catchwell beat him?
Yeah, dislocated his shoulder, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. He won the title. He's got this WBC international super lightweight title against Sabir. But I understand he's in Manchester now, up in my neck of the woods, training with Sean Kroll, a South African. You know what? You have to fancy O'Hara, though. It's all about O'Hara moving on to bigger fights. O'Hara's in there to win. And despite Kamanga being 21-1, and he should give O'Hara certainly rounds, you got to think O'Hara wins. If O'Hara can't beat the likes of Kamanga, he can't talk about world titles, let alone who's going to win the World Cup.
Absolutely. I think also this is Ahura Davis. This is like his reintroduction to a TV audience. He was out in Leeds, but he didn't make the televised card. This, you'd imagine, he's certainly going to be on the show. He'll be, the lights will go out. He'll have that Undertaker music coming on, which he started coming out to, and it will be fun. And hopefully we see all the fruits of his labours with his new coach, and we see that all come together.
Let's hope so, because we want O'Hara in big fights.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been talking about Maurice Hooker.
Hey, Maurice Hooker, there's so much out there for him. Maurice Hooker, Terry Flanagan. The fight I love is Jack Catterall and O'Hara. But Jack's got a tough enough test in Belfast next week against Tyrone McKenna, a 6-foot southpaw.
Yeah, that'll be tasty. That'll be tasty. But this Saturday night, it's live on BoxNation. It's a cracking show from the O2 Arena. We'll be on air from 7 o'clock. Martin Murray against Roberto Garcia for the WBC silver middleweight title. Anthony Yarde against Darius Seck. Daniel Dubois against Tom Little. O'Hara Davis against Paul Kermanga. Make sure you're tuning in. It will be a cracking night at the O2. It was confirmed earlier in the week that Carl Frampton is set to get his dream night at Windsor Park, August the 18th. He was there for Warrington against Selby. He saw the stadium fight. He's been dreaming of it. He felt the electricity at Elland Road. And later on this summer, he's going to get a slice of it himself. He takes on the undefeated Australian Olympian, Luke Jackson. And Steve Lillis grabbed a quick word with the Jackal, who told us why Jackson was chosen and also gives us his thoughts on Martin Murray's return on Saturday, which will be live on BoxNation.
Carl, dream come true for you fighting at Windsor Park?
Yeah, it's going to be a big night. Just being here now and having a look out, it's going to be special. I'm looking forward to it. Big bill, bumper bill, Fury, Paddy, and I'm sure the way some of the undercards have been going in recent times with Frank and MPK, I think it's going to be a packed out undercard. So I'm looking forward. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm glad I'm topping it. I'm proud to be topping it, but I can't wait to walk out there. I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere.
How old were you when you first? You might have sat watching Northern Ireland, thinking, "I want to box here."
Well, I can't remember. I remember being a kid and talking about this. I think the first game I watched was a friend. I'm not sure if it was a friendly or competitive game, but Northern Ireland played France. Can't remember much about the game, but Lillian Thuram sticks in my head. Just remember him playing for some reason. He must have had a great game, but yeah, I've been thinking about it for a long time. You kind of think about it and not really imagine it could ever happen until you start winning world titles and doing things like that. But now, the last few years I've been fully focused on topping a bill here at Windsor.
And Luke Jackson, number 5 ranked WBO, unbeaten Australian, captain of their Olympics.
Yeah.
He's a better test than some might think, isn't he?
Of course he is, and people will be expecting a little bit of stick for it, but there's absolutely nothing that can be done about it. All the world champions were tied up. They just fought, or they don't feel like they're ready to fight yet. You talk about Scott Quigg and Kid Galahad. I've done Scott Quigg. I never got out of first gear against him. It was a boring fight. And why would I give Kid Galahad a chance? Luke Jackson is number 5 of the WBO. He's highly ranked, as you said, undefeated, a former Olympian, and a good fighter. And people think that, I'm going to go in and it's going to be easy and blow him away. I'll bring him back to the fight with Alejandro Gonzalez when I was on my backside twice in the first round. So I'll not be thinking like that, and I'll be training like I train for every other opponent, and I'll be in the shape of my life.
Likely to be a world title fight afterwards. Oscar Valdez or Josh Warrington, who would you take if you were given a choice? Same money, same conditions. Same money,
same conditions. I think Warrington's an easier fight, but either or, to be honest. I'm up for the fight with Valdez. I think it's a terrific fight. I think it'll be very, very exciting. But likewise, the Warrington fight, it would be a big deal over here in the UK, not so big in the States, but either or, honestly, I'm ready for it.
And you're looking really well, even 7-8 weeks out.
Done it 10 days in Tenerife, nice tan, nice new suit, so I'm in good shape. I've been training away. I've been teamed up with the Institute in Manchester again, and they've been looking after me as always, so done a little bit of altitude training already, so yeah, all good. And just one final question, a bit off topic before we let you go. Martin Murray, how's he looking before his fight with Garcia? He's flying, and I've got to know Martin a little bit, training alongside him. He's one of the most mentally determined people I've ever seen. Mentally very, very strong guy, and he's good crack, Martin, but he just goes about his business and doesn't say a lot either. But he's looking good, and I think expect a big performance, and I'm hoping then he gets a huge fight after this. Thanks very much. Thanks for your time. Cheers,
Steve, so Frampton talked about Luke Jackson. He's talked about how he didn't really want to give Scott Quigg or Kid Galahad the fight. Give me your thoughts on the selection of Luke Jackson as the opponent.
He's ranked number 5 in the world. Look, it's a fight you'd expect Carl to win. Let's not beat about the bush there. It's a fight he should win, but he's unbeaten, Jackson. He's got a good amateur pedigree. And I was at the press conference in Belfast on Monday, and he's coming with confidence. I shared the flight over from Manchester and the one back to Manchester with him, his manager, and there's a lot of confidence in the Aussies camp. I mean, the Aussies always are confident, but he usually only moves up to Sydney from Tasmania 6 weeks before a fight. But he flew home last night, Jackson, and he's going to have a couple of days of his family and then go straight back up to Sydney and have an 8-week training camp. At the end of the camp, he's going to go to Dubai for a few days and then come into the UK 10 days before the fight. Might spend some time in Manchester and then go over to Belfast fight week. So no stones being unturned by the Australian camp. And the amount of money they're obviously spending on a camp shows you how serious they are. They know if Jackson wins, it changes his life. He walks into either fighting Josh Warrington or Oscar Valdez, whoever he wants. It's a life changer for Luke.
And also with this fight, Steve, so it's Carl Frampton's defending his WBO interim title. The champion, Oscar Valdez, is currently out injured. Is this not the kind of fight that suddenly, if Valdez is going to be out for longer than he should be to make a defence of his title, this could get upgraded to a full world title fight?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the situation is with there. I mean, what Frank Warren was alluding to at the press conference was that they tried to make Valdez here, but he wouldn't be ready. And in the words of Frank at the press conference, he was talking about, forget after now, that fight's gone for now. After this, as far as he's concerned, Carl Frampton's heading straight into Josh Warrington's fight later this year on neutral ground. And although it's still there's a lot to be agreed, that's the fight Frank Warren is planning to make at the end of this year. And I think he's taking it down the line pretty quickly. He did state at the press conference that he was actually meeting with Josh Warrington this week to discuss it.
That's brilliant. If we see that before the turn of the year, that's quite something, and it'll be a lot quicker than what some people would have thought. There's this idea of marinading and keeping them apart. I know you like that word, Steve, and build it up. But if they're just going to throw them in, that's quite impressive. Yeah,
I think I was just looking at the IBF rankings yesterday. I think one of the issues might be as well that, although ideally you'd love it at Windsor Park or Ellen Road next summer, next February, Josh will have a mandatory put on him.
Okay. And back to Carl Frampton then. So obviously he's training alongside Martin Murray. They're in the same gym now. What's the atmosphere like up there? And how much is his influence going to spur Martin Murray on this Saturday night to pick up the WBC silver middleweight title?
You know what, that gym, and you're going to think I'm just blowing smoke up the gym and up these boxes because everyone says, it's such a happy gym. That gym, for so many fighters who are just different characters, different personalities, you've got the larger-than-life fellas like Carl Frampton, who loves a laugh and a joke when he's not training. You've got the assistant trainer, Nigel Travis, who should be on the stage. You've got someone quiet like Jack Cattrall. You've got Martin Murray, who just boxes, goes home to his family. It's a chemical that's brought everyone together in that gym, and the atmosphere is quite unique. And having not just Carl, but all those sort of guys around Martin, you hope will bring the best out of him this weekend. It really is like a team, and they root for each other. Even Carl's in a situation where we've got the fight on BoxNation next week, where his great friend Tyrone McKenna fights Jack Cattrall. It's a unique gym and a unique atmosphere that's been brought together between them all. And they can only benefit in that in the ring. Too many people who talk about that Jamie Moore's gym focus on the little Instagram jokes they do and say they're really training. But trust me, they do. I go there all the time.
And the Instagram jokes are great, by the way. So please don't, if you guys are listening and you are being, you're seeing disparaging remarks online about these jokes, don't listen. Yeah, keep them coming.
That's exactly it. They, when they went to Tenerife for a hard training camp and they put some jokes and they went for a meal at night and they was doing karaoke. It was like what you get after every football match, it was trial by Twitter, that training camp. It was ridiculous. And, in the end, Jamie Moore had to say something. And you know what? If you notice, there's not as many videos coming out now, Dev, because of things like that.
Which is a bit of a shame, if you
It
ask
is a
me.
shame
But,
because it gives people an insight. It shows people things that they don't know boxers do. They're showing a human side, how well they all get on, and they're getting slaughtered that it's being treated as some jolly.
well, I'm sure we will see how well Martin Murray has prepared this Saturday night live on BoxNation. The jokes, the karaoke, I'm sure will have no bearing on his performance. And we're all backing him to pick up that WBC silver middleweight title and hopefully force some kind of world title shot. That's Saturday night live on BoxNation from 7 o'clock. Now, last week I was going about my business, was doing a bit of work, catching up on all the boxing news on Twitter, when out of the blue, a horny 22-year-old slid into my DMs. Now, Mrs. Sonny, if you're listening, don't worry. It's not what you think. The message was actually from unbeaten flyweight sensation Horny Harvey Horn. And he just said, Dev, you're the podcast man. I'm fighting next Saturday. Let's get a bit of Harvey Horn on the podcast, shall we? And I completely agreed. So I told Steve Lillis, you got to give this man a call.
Harvey, thanks for joining us on the BoxNation podcast. And just a few days before you're in action again at the O2 Arena, you looking forward to your third professional fight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to put a big arena, big performance, and I've got a big following coming, so I can't wait.
Yourself, the flyweight division, I know you're young, you've only had a couple of fights, but it seems a division where you can fighters seem to get pushed quicker than most, like Paddy Barnes is heading towards a world title fight. You're looking at Jay Harris, and of course there's your rivalry with Sonny Edwards.
Yeah, I mean, the flyweights, I think it's a really interesting weight to be in at the minute. You've got a couple of good fighters there, but we will tend to get pushed on quicker than people in other weights, maybe. I'm looking to get pushed on quicker because of my amateur background as well. So I've been on the world scene for the past 3 years. So hopefully I get pushed up, get them title fights sooner rather than later, dust up the domestic scene, especially Edwards, because he's doing my nutting at the minute. But yeah, it's really exciting time to be a flyweight.
What's caused this rivalry between yourself and Sonny?
You know what? We was actually all right. We was pals, but I'm not too sure what happened. I mean, I was on the podium squad. He was on development squad. I got on there just before, and I'd won the ABAs just before him, like the senior ABAs. He won it the year later, and then for some reason he started calling me out then, knowing full well that I can't box him because I'm on GB and he's not on GB. And I wasn't looking towards it. I was looking more for sort of international honours, and he was sitting there still calling me out sort of thing, and it's sort of carried on into the pro ranks. So he's had a couple more fights than me. I think he thinks he's a little bit ahead of me, but the fight's going to happen because I think people want to see it. People are generally interested in it because they know that there's a genuine sort of needle there. So yeah, it will come. It will definitely come.
I mean, when you was on GB and he was on the podium squad in Sheffield, did you see each other or hang about at all?
No, I was on the podium squad, so I was in there during the week, Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday. And he went up there once every 2 weeks on the podium potential, they call it, which is like, I don't want to say the BT, but it's the ones coming up. And there was already me and Galal on at podium, so there wasn't really room for anyone else on podium. And we was doing well as it was. Me and Galal was winning tournaments here, there and everywhere. And he managed to pit me at the end with the Olympics. But it was only out of me and him, really.
Was that hard? Was that hard for you getting picked for the Olympics? Obviously, I dare say that's what forced you to turn over. Well, that must have been a heartbreaker for you.
Oh, mate, it was horrible. It was horrible. It was like, in January, in 2016, in the run-up to the Rio Olympics, I was actually in the number 1 spot, and I just lost it. I had a couple of stinkers, like bad tournaments. I still feel that I should have been selected, obviously, because I felt that I'd won European silver. I'd been all over the world, winning mainly golds or the odd silver. But I was gutted, and I'll be honest, it did have a little bit of... it made my decision to turn pro sort of thing. It was very hard staying on the squad, knowing that I'd missed out on such a big opportunity. And obviously, Galal didn't turn over. He's looking for the Tokyo Olympics. It would have been very, very hard to push him off that top spot. Because now, obviously, he's an Olympian now. He's in the number one. He's in the driving seat. And I'll be honest, he's very consistent. And he's a good fighter. Yeah, so it would have been very hard to make that Olympic dream happen. So I felt that the only way for me to turn was pro.
If you just give our listeners some insight about when you're in Sheffield and there's yourself and Galal, and you're both going for one place, and you might have been mates for years, you've lived together for years up there. What's it like between boxers? Say, for example, yourself and Galal, when you're both hell-bent on getting to the Olympics, there's one place, and at that time, there's nothing between you.
Yeah, well, look, like me and Galal, we was on good terms, but obviously, where you know you're both fighting for the same place, you'll never be blood brothers. But the competition really does bring you on, even though it's a lot of pressure, like a lot of very hard work. You knowing that this tournament could be the change, like this fight, every fight you're taking could be the fight that gets you in front, or could be the fight that loses you your place. And it's a lot of pressure, But me and Galal, the competition really did bring us on. But me and Galal being on podium we was on podium for about 6 months together, and in that 6 months, I probably developed more than I had over the last 2 years. It was good for me in the long run, but obviously very heartbreaking.
And also, Joe Mafosa's another good addition to the flyweight division at the moment.
Yeah, Joe's a good kid. I've seen him on GB as well. He's a good fighter. He's a quality fighter. That is a fight that I would like to happen, because he's with Frank. I'm with Frank. I feel like it would make sense to do it for maybe an English title, because he's got a good amateur background behind him as well. GB won a few international tournaments here and there, so he's a bit above the other flyweights that I'm looking at, really, like the other domestic flyweights, apart from obviously like Selby's, Edwards maybe, Jay Harris, and then you've got Joe Mafosa. So it would be nice to get for maybe an English title or a British or whatever it is. But me and Mafosa will definitely fight at some point as well, I think.
Yourself, Mafosa and Sonny Edwards, what order would you put the three of you in right now?
At the minute, he started on me on Twitter the other day so I'm probably going to say me, Mafosa and Edwards. If it was in order of who I'd want to fight first, I'd like to have Edwards first. But obviously, it's probably not going to happen at the minute. So I would say Mafosa's probably a bit more of a threat, but we'll see.
How soon could yourself and Edwards fight?
I reckon this is my third bout now. I reckon maybe I get this year out of the way. Hopefully, get 5 or 6 under my belt. Start of next year, maybe. If there's something on the line, it would be nice to have something on the line, because it is a risky fight, really, because we're both top quality boys. As much as we give each other needle, I can't take that away from him. He is a quality boy, so it would be a risky fight. So it'd be nice to have that risk for something in front of us, like a nice belt or something.
And how's it going with Mark training you?
Yeah, Mark's brought me on loads. I mean, I'm learning all the tricks of the trade, and I couldn't have turned really with a better team. I've got Mark Tibbs behind me, Jimmy Tibbs. I mean, the knowledge I've got just there of the pro game is better than most I can think of. So it's a great team to have turned over with.
And is there anyone else who does your strength or anything?
Yeah, I've got a bloke called Sonny Cannon. I've done S&C up GB for the past 3 years, and they've got top quality people up there, proper strength and conditioning coaches. And this bloke Sonny, I'm not just saying it, he's up there. He's very doesn't like the limelight so much. Probably won't like me mentioning his name.
He can blame me for that. I asked you.
Yeah, very, very good S&C coach.
Yourself, you're still very, very young. You're in the infancy of your pro career. Is flyweight the weight where you'll make your name, or are you one of those fighters where, after 2 years you're going to have to move up to superfly?
You know what? I'll be honest, the move will probably be down. It won't be up. I've got the over in Japan or all the sort of in Asia where the lightweights are big. I'd like to be fighting for titles over there, or maybe getting some fights over there.
Really?
Because I can make the light fly limit. Yeah, because I'm comfortable at my weight now. So I'm happy to drop down. Wouldn't be much of a problem at all. So it'd be nice to maybe even go down, pick up a few titles here and there, because there's not many people around. So it'd be nice.
And what do you think when you think, obviously you want to make your money out of boxing? How much harder is it for guys that light fly and flyweight, when you're doing 7 stone, 10 and 8 stone, to go and get those massive paydays at the welterweight, they're the lightweights, welters, middles, heavies get?
Yeah, definitely a lot harder, I think. We're at a disadvantage, but because obviously people want to see knockouts. And but I believe that if you're an exciting fighter, you're an exciting fighter. And I've got a little bit of personality about me. So it hopefully goes hand in hand. And even after boxing,
whether it goes well or whether it doesn't. Obviously, I'm hoping it goes well with world honours. That's what I'm aiming for. But I'd like to stay in boxing. I like the commentary. I like the pundit side. I like being in front of a camera. So I think that I'll probably be here in the boxing game for a long time, even after I'm done fighting.
He's a bit of a talker, isn't he, Steve?
Yeah, he's a great talker, Harvey, for someone who's only had a couple fights. He's self-assured and he's confident, but not in a nasty way. He's got a nice way about him. And there's certainly fights he wants out there. Obviously, the one everyone's talking about that's on lips is against Sonny Edwards. He's former, Team GB, so he knew who was around Team GB on the squad below him. And it seems these rivalries that seem to break out that Sheffield camp are, they happen all the time. It's like we've got Dubois and Nathan Gorman now are going to be at loggerheads pretty soon. Mm-hmm. But there's great fights out there for Harvey. Look, the one we want to see is Edwards. Plenty of needle there, plenty of feeling between them. There's Joe Mafosa. There's great fights to be made for him. And because they are flyweights, they tend to be moved quicker.
And of course, there's Jay Harris there as well. But just on Harvey Horn, if I say these descriptive words here, so if I say he's a talker, he's a good-looking boy, he's got a good nickname, he's got the amateur pedigree. All of that you can say about Sonny Edwards as well. So you hopefully we get him on next week's show.
That's what makes it such a great fight. They both talk the talk and they walk the walk. Their professional experience being limited, so people might say, "Hey, what are you saying? They walk the walk as professionals?" But those guys are really solid as amateurs. That's all that does for me.
And all these guys, I'm sure they'll be. If Paddy Barnes is able to pull off the win. And win the WBC title, you got to think about what are the big money fights for Paddy Barnes. Once he's got that, he won't just want to retire, surely. He needs to then cement his legacy. These group of fighters coming through, the Joe Mafosas, Harvey Horn, Sonny Edwards, who can all chat a little bit. They're all good fighters. I feel as though Paddy Barnes is going to have a target on his back from these guys.
Oh, of course he will, because they'll see him as he's a little bit older. And, you look, so they've had the similar amount of fights to Paddy. But Paddy did have that vast amateur experience. So, they're not fights you rule out, but they're still 12 months off that sort of level. So I think, it would be a good 9 months minimum before Paddy could, would be considered to be fighting these sort of guys.
What did you think of Harvey Horn saying that he could go down to light flyweights and he wants to go over to Japan or over to Asia and start, knocking people out, I guess, or,
Look, there's great fighters in there. The hard luck, the bad luck that he's got, there's no one, in that light flyweights in Britain to have any sort of rivalry. And the light flight, it is just not trendy. Flyweights are getting a better name than what they were. And of course, the guys we've got in this country and Ireland now, like Paddy, Joe Mafosa, the Edwards, Jay Harris. But you go down to light flyweight, you're looking at guys like Heike Budler, the South African. I think he had a great win a few weeks ago away from home. Those sort of guys you're looking at now, as good as they are, what they quite mean is nothing. So I think, he's going to have to stay at flyweight, to generate any sort of proper money, because there are these, you generate more money from yourself through rivalries.
Not the worst. I hear what you're saying, Steve, but I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. Is if he sees a very beatable champion who's based in Japan and he's at light flyweight and Harvey Horn thinks he's got his number, Harvey Horn could go over there, somehow get a shot at him, win the belt, come back as a bit of a hero, and suddenly he's several kind of steps ahead of the likes of Sonny Edwards and all of these guys because he's already won a world title.
Oh, absolutely.
So strategically, it could work for him.
Absolutely, it would work for him to be a world champion, but he's also got to think of money. There could be more money in a 3-fight series with Sonny Edwards than there could be winning a world title in Japan and making a defence here. That's the brutal truth for boxing. People go about how romantic it is. Romance happens in Rocky films. Boxing's a business.
Absolutely. Well, let's keep an eye on the progress of Harvey Horn. He is back in action this Saturday night at the O2 Arena. He's on the undercard. I'm not sure he's going to be televised this time, but I'm sure he's going to put on another great display for those in attendance at the O2. And for that show, we'll be live from 7 o'clock on BoxNation. Now, we mentioned him on last week's show as a boxer who's going about things a little differently. He's not just tweeting someone to call them out, he's got his own vlog. Yeah, he makes graphics, he takes extra creative steps, and he's started to turn a few heads. Umar Sadiq is 2-0. He's a super middleweight, and he's got his third fight scheduled this Saturday night on the undercard of Martin Murray against Roberto Garcia. So Steve Lillis gave the man they call Top Boxer a quick call and asked him how he's developed in the last year since he turned over as a pro.
Majorly, man. I mean, doing training for this fight, I've gone to America, walked up into the gym, thrown my bag on the ground and offered anyone out. So there are good things to come for June 23rd and that will too. Just, people got to tune in or turn up to see.
What gym did you go to in America? Whereabouts were you?
I was in LA, I was in Vegas, so I was in Wildcard, Mayover Gym, and then around that I went to a few other places, a number of other gyms around, so got my face around, got some good perks.
Yeah, so what did they make of you in a confident British guy who's only had 2 fights and was an accountant? What did they make of you in America?
Yeah, they were quite pleased. A lot of the coaches were saying things like, you're going to make your way to the top, keep doing what you're doing. So that's all positive reinforcement that keeps me going. Did you spar with anybody we might know? Yeah, Latif Kanobi, Andrew Tabiti, another guy called Anthony, I don't think his surname was Anthony something for the other. There was also a chance to spar with Ramirez, but he ended up turning up on the day that he was meant to, so that didn't happen. So how much good did it do you then? How much has that brought you on then? Like I said, June 23rd, O2 Arena, tune in or turn up when you see. And I know you've only had 2 fights, but I've seen you on Twitter and you seem to be keen on getting to grips with Darryl Williams, which, is pretty confident when you just had 2 professional fights, which have been 4-rounders. Yeah, it is, but I believe in my coach, I believe in my training and my abilities. I was a high-class and high-level amateur boxer internationally. I represented England as well as Nigeria, so I have all the pedigree behind me. With that said, I look at the English level in the UK. Well, the English level has to be in the UK, but I look at it and I look at the fighters and I'm confident that I'm prepared to compete with them. So hopefully that's a fight. Hopefully Darryl wins his fight on June the 23rd as well. And down the line at some point this year, that's a fight that hopefully can be made. So, but you're going to that fight possibly with just 3 or 4 fights behind you? Yeah, 100. I mean, obviously I'll get to have my third on the 23rd, but any time after that, I'm good to go for the fight. Well, what do you think of Darryl as a fighter? I think he's good for what he is. What you see with him is what you get. He looks like a robust, strong, aggressive fighter, and when you watch him fight, that's exactly what he comes with. But unfortunately, with my pedigree and my level of skill, he's going to need a lot more than that to deal with me. So, I'm throwing my name out in a cap, and hopefully I get the shot, and all comes to light when it happens. I mean, I know you're a very intelligent man. You've got a fantastic career behind you. Where do you get your confidence from? I mean, I know all boxers have to be confident, but for someone who's had 2 fights and a lot of mainstream fans are just getting to know you, you're pretty sure of yourself. Well, in the amateurs, I went into the national championships. That's the ABA. Just after 9 fights, I begged Repton for 2 weeks to allow me to go into that. Then finally gave in, and Tony, legendary Tony Brett let me in, saying, "I told you so." But I went in there, I was beating European bronze medalists, people that had 80 fights, 120 fights, previous ABA champions. And right from then to the end of my amateur boxing career, I only boxed against elite fighters, and like I said, internationally as well. So with all of that confidence and all the sparring that I get, I'm in camp with the likes of Lawrence Okoli, I sparred James DeGill, Joshua Boateng, who I've also boxed, so many names. So, I've only had positive reinforcement in my boxing career, and because of that, I can only be confident. Yeah, just one final question before we let you go. And you've sparred with good men in America, you've sparred with some great men here. Who's the best fighter you've sparred with? Just give us a bit of insight into that. Oh, that's a bit of a hard one. You know what, actually, I'm going to throw one in there. So there's one of my gym mates, Dan Lee. He also trained under Brian O'Shaughnessy. He's actually the hardest sparrer I ever have. There's just maybe because he understands my style, but he's someone who makes me work really hard. Well, fantastic. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you in action again
next week. Any message for your fans or people who are going to see you for the first time?
The message would be go on www.topboxersadiq.com, get your tickets before they all run out. And on June the 23rd at the O2, I'm going to be catwalking down to the big stage because that's where I belong. So, and if you can't get a ticket, tune in and see what Top Box is all about.
Steve, he's a pro, isn't he? I mean, he's a nice little cheeky plug for his website at the end there. I like the sound of Umar Sadiq.
I like him a lot. He's a great self-publicist. He's an example to our boxers if they're turning professional, how you should be selling yourself, how you do it. And you know what? He's only had 2 pro fights against Luis Van Pooch and Yalten Neves, right? Sure. And you know what? He's created a storyline already with Daryl Williams.
Yes.
It's fantastic. That is how you sell yourself. We were chatting after the interview and I said, it's madness to want him. He's had 16 fights. Madness. And he said, no, I want him now. I said, but surely the people around you. He said, well, that's what they're there for. We'll decide whether you think it's right. But you know what? He does want him now himself. And he's created that storyline between him and Daryl Williams. So how better? What would you rather talk about? A 2-0 fighter who's good and doesn't say a lot, but a 2-0 fighter who's already talking of storylines, but because of who he sparred with, who he fought as an amateur, makes him ready for that fight. He's fantastic, and I love it. It was great interviewing him a couple of days ago for the podcast, Dev, because he is good fun to be around.
He is, and he clearly believes in himself. Calling out Daryl Williams. Yeah, he definitely believes in himself. Calling out Daryl Williams after only 2 fights. Now, I saw an interview Daryl Williams did when he was asked about Umar Sadiq, and that was full of expletives. He didn't seem to really take to Umar. He didn't see the funny side of being called a ferocious chihuahua, which is quite humorous, might I add. But he didn't see the funny side of that, and just said, if he sees him, he's gonna take action. Now, I just wonder if they're going to both be backstage on Saturday night. They're going to be walking around. You can't put them in the same changing room. Because I don't think Daryl Williams will kind of play. I don't think he appreciates that this is a storyline potentially that Umar Sadiq is building up to build a fight. He might just see it as disrespect. If he feels disrespected, Umar Sadiq is going to know about it.
I don't know Umar away from boxing. I only know him professionally. But what I will say about Daryl, he's a street kid from South London. That's all you need to know. He is a street kid. Now, I think there's a bit of a past there, himself. He's been among many that are saved by boxing. He's a street kid. And if he feels he's being disrespected, he won't be scared of letting someone know by whatever means, I tend to think.
Absolutely. And I'll be running around backstage with my mobile phone almost... I'll kind of say, Umar, go this way. And I'll go and tell Daryl, go this way. And I'll try and force them together and get a little video out. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Help the story, wouldn't it?
You get that. That's your job Saturday night, mate. Forget Martin Murray going at it on BoxNation, mate. You go and get that story Saturday night. You get Sadiq versus Williams backstage.
Give him a nice, gentle nudge. Now, I'm sure Umar Sadiq will be on our screens before long. He may well end up on the televised show this Saturday night. Again, we're live from 7 o'clock. It's Martin Murray, Roberto Garcia on BoxNation. Last Saturday night, the IBF World Welterweight Champion Errol Spence returned to action and made quick work of his mandatory challenger Carlos Ocampo. He knocked him out in the first round. He looked great. He had a terrific crowd there, and it was a real moment for Errol Spence. It was his 11th consecutive knockout, and talk once again turned to a super fight with WBO champion Terence Crawford. Here's what Spence said in a media huddle about Crawford.
Terence Crawford predicted Spence for the kill before the fight. Was he accurate?
Yeah, I'm a killer. That's why, man.
What direct message do you have for Terence Crawford?
I have no message for the man. Nothing at all. I have no message for him at all. I'm tired of giving out messages. I've been giving out messages. I'm 11 straight knockouts. What else messages should I give to that man? But, I don't got to get no message. He doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. We're going to meet up. It's going to be a big money fight. Should be on pay-per-view. We're going to have it, man.
If Keith Thurman comes back...
I hope Terence Crawford keep winning. I hope he keep looking impressive. Hope I keep winning, keep looking impressive. Because we're going to meet up. We're going to make big money.
Steve, I just wanted a quick chat on this one. So Terence Crawford sent out a statement a couple of weeks back when he stopped Jeff Horn. Spencer's just smashed up his mandatory. Is this the best fight that can be made in boxing?
Right now it is. Look, trends in boxing change almost like the wind. What's the best fight in boxing? What's not? And to somewhat, it is a bit mythical, just like pound for pound lists. Everyone has their favourites. But look, it's the hottest fight in boxing because they're both brilliant. I think they 57-0 between them, 45 knockouts. Crawford's 30, Spence's 28. They're just about at their peaks.
Yeah.
So that's why people are desperate for this fight now. But, what does it do pay-per-view wise in America? These guys are going to be thinking, I want $20 million plus this, plus that. But you know what? How much money, I wonder, is there for the fight? Because whether you like it or not, the only true pay-per-view attraction in America is Canelo Álvarez. You can say what you want. These are the best two fighters, two of the great fighters in boxing today. Perhaps they would survive in any era. But they've got to become pay-per-view stars. That's the problem the promoters have got. How do you sell this fight and give them the money they deserve? How do you get them out there, make them household names like Evan Corner, Top Rank? Is that Crawford doing the New York media for the last few days, taking him up there? A great move, but it's about getting their names out there and making it the big enough pay-per-view fight that will give them the money they deserve and they want. It's a great fight, but it's just making them household names to make it such a big attraction on pay-per-view. And how long do you give yourself to do that before you just say, we'll do this fight?
Well, you feel as though on Crawford's side, in particular, he's with Top Rank, he fights on ESPN. I know he was on the app before, he was on ESPN Plus, but if he was opened up to the full ESPN audience, that is a real powerhouse over there in America. So if he fights on regular ESPN for his next fight, his fight after that, suddenly he is on his way to becoming a household name. And if you keep mentioning Errol Spence, suddenly there's a narrative building there that crosses over. So I think it's a few fights away, but as fans, we just want to see it now, right?
Of course we do, but I think you've nailed it there, Dev. It's maybe not a few fights away because they have 2-3 fights a year. I think around this time next year, September 2019 is going to be the time, and it depends what is there. How much money. This is all there is there to go there. But it's about building their profiles, these guys, and Top Rank will be doing it with Crawford. Spencer's all sorts of rumours about what he might do promotionally, and then selling the fight and getting them together for the right money and in front of the right TV audience, and hopefully we'll have it on BoxNation because Crawford, of course, is one of our fighters. We have the exclusive UK rights to him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the sort of fight that would have BoxNation written all over it. Tell me, Steve, what are the best fights that could be made in boxing? So you got that. Yeah, you Spence Crawford. Give me some more. That.
You know what? I've said it for the start of the year. Wilder and against Joshua is still a great fight for me. That to me, is a heavyweight shootout. At middleweight, I'd like to see the winner of Canelo and Golovkin fight Jamal Charlo. I'd like Billy Joe Saunders to fight the winner of Canelo Golovkin. I'd like Billy Joe Saunders to fight Charlo. There's fantastic fights like that. I want to see Mikey Garcia against Lomachenko. There's so many good fights that to be made out there. You look at some of the featherweights out there. I want to see Santa Cruz and Frampton. I want to see Oscar Valdez and Carl Frampton. I want to see Josh Warrington and Carl Frampton. It's just what there is out there. The fights that can be made are fantastic. It's how many of them we get made. But look, to me, if you said to me you can have one fight in the next 12 months, it would be Crawford Spence. And I'm sorry to my pals like Carl Frampton who are desperate for Santa Cruz and Valdez and Warrington.
Do you know what, though? I hear all of that, and I think they're all great fights, but I want to give a real notable mention for Tete against Inoue. Goodness me, imagine that one.
You love Tete. I tell you what would you do if they had that fight in some remote part of the world where there's about one plane a week, like the Rumble in the Jungle days? You would find a way of getting there, even if you had to swim around sharks and crocodiles, wouldn't you? To carry Tete's belt in the ring, even if all your clothes have been ripped to bits off. You're swimming there.
I would be there. You can't miss a minute. You can't miss a second, as he's proved before, of Tete time. So I would be there. No, good chat, Steve. Good to hear that the sort of fights you've got at the top of your list, and Errol Spence against Terence Crawford is right up there, and I think it can be built into a real super fight. And I'm sure if it does happen, it'll be on Box Nation. Stick with us. Now, Steve, it's that time of the week again. I get texts, I'll tell you this. I get texts, I get emails, sometimes I get phone calls. Do you know what they're always saying to me? That's Steve Lillis. What's he going to be ranting and raving about this week? What's he got on his mind? So, Steve, I've got to ask you, what you talking about, Lillis?
I'm talking about David Haye. And first of all, before I pay my tribute to David Haye, I want to tell these people who have just ripped him apart when he retired and called him this and called him that to get off his back. He had a fantastic career. Even an amateur, he was fantastic. And when he won that world silver medal in Belfast around 2001 when he was 19, 20. That was one of the stunning performances in British amateur boxing. They didn't have the funding of now. That was all beg, steal and borrow to get to major championships. That was amazing. He turned professional not long after, I think 2002. Privileged even been at his pro debut was Sunday afternoon at York Hall against Tony Booth. I think Eugene Maloney promoted it. To go and fight Carl Thompson after 11 fights, come off second best, but even until split second before he got stopped, he was still urging Carl on to come and give it a go. And you know what? The fight didn't do him any harm because he went and won the European title 4 or 5 fights later. And he had his first real war since Thompson against Giacobi Fragomeni, a Friday night at York Hall, Dev. Fragomeni was 21-0. Haye had an X-rated cut. X-rated. And you know what? He survived that. And he stopped Fragomeni in 9 rounds. And then I thought, wow, this guy really is for real. And then he was out, I think, for a few months after that. Then went and fought Jean-Marc Mormat on a Don King show. Unification, WBA, WBC titles at Mormat held. And you know what? That is one of the greatest performances by a British fighter abroad in history. Absolute fantastic when he got off the floor to deliver the goods that night. One of the stunning performances, and to be there that night in, I think it was the Marcel Cerdan Palace, they call it.
Wow.
It was something else. He was magnificent. Then, of course, he had another title. Enzo Macronelli took the WBO title from him. Just a shame he really never went for the BC, but he went into heavyweight then. And look, he won that title against Nikolai Valuev. It was what it was. They gambled the way they won the fight that night, just trying to nick the rounds, and they got the verdict. The thing that does, Audley Harrison, he got stick for. It wasn't his fault the way Harrison turned up that night. Look, Klitschko, toegate. He's talked decapitations and all this, and he blamed his toe. That is the black mark on his record. And I'm sure if you ask David, when he looks back, does he regret that? It was a ridiculous thing to come out with. And then, the shootout against Chisora, and we went on he then vanished for about 3.5 years. And then the comeback, which was, okay, maybe you can say, I'm not going to say it's a black mark because, the first 2 opponents weren't up to much. But the 2 fights with Tony Bellew, he was just beaten by, his body was in bits by that time. And and Tony Bellew was just too fresh for him, and that was it. I don't think Tony would have beaten him at cruiserweight without a doubt. I think the only, you could argue maybe only Hollofield's been a better cruiserweight so far. Usyk might go on and prove to be better than a lot of them at cruiserweight. But I think that some of the stick he got last week, he was a bit of Marmite about David. A lot of people I know, had no time for him. All I can say, my dealings with him and knowing him since he was 15, he was absolutely fantastic. And when that career is analysed, it was a bloody good career, particularly at cruiserweight. And I think he didn't get enough praise last week when he retired.
I agree with you, Steve. I agree with you. And just picking back up on a couple of fights that you mentioned there, I've got a memory of the Valuev fights. And that's the fight where, as you said, it was a gamble with his tactics. He just wanted to win the rounds rather than, seek the knockout, seek and destroy against the giant. It was David against Goliath. He did actually wobble Valuev.
In the final
giant
round.
wobbled. Yes, that was a real moment. I remember watching that and jumping up on my feet. Is he about to slay this giant? That was quite a moment.
Yeah, what it was with that fight was they gambled on nicking the rounds in, out, in, out. And that's a big gamble to take in your backyard. And Valuev was useless that night, let's be honest. And if they'd lost that fight, Adam Booth and himself, because Adam come up with the tactics, they would have been slaughtered for not doing 20% more to win the fight, possibly by stoppage. That was a big gamble and it paid off. But that shows the fine lines in boxing, because if he'd lost that fight on points, they'd have been slaughtered for throwing it away.
And the Chisora fight, which really catapulted BoxNation, of course, back in July 2012. Just the build-up for that fight. They were separated at the kind of face-off by like a steel fence. What an iconic image that is. That's the David Haye heading into that fight. The bravado, the confidence, the quick flash talking, and then the heavy hitting David Haye. That's the one that I'll remember. The one leading into the Chisora fight that stopped Derek Chisora in 5 rounds. That was incredible.
That's a good point, Dev, about the one you'll remember, because that was really the last time we saw him. Fast hands, explosive punching, so quick. That was the last time we saw it, and that's a great memory to take away. And not, as you say, that image of the iconic image of them being separated by fencing and security, but also it was a fight that lived up to the hype. That was a great fight. And you know what? At the time of the stoppage, David was just starting to blow a little bit. Just starting to blow. Fantastic fight, but it seems there aren't too many people who like talking about it. But it was a fantastic fight.
Fantastic fight, fantastic night, Upton Park. It was raining, but who cared? No one cared, and that's what I'll remember of David Haye. So, Steve, your final message to David Haye. Big thank you.
Thank you for everything, and enjoy retirement. We'll see you around, I hope, because you can still add a lot to boxing.
Now, we are a 24/7 boxing channel here at BoxNation, and here's what's coming up this week. Thursday, 7 o'clock, Boxing Matters. Ron Lewis, Jeff Powell, Alex Steedman, they're all talking boxing. They're all talking boxing on BoxNation. And do you know why? Because boxing matters. Thursday, 9 o'clock, Zelfa Barrett against Edwin Tellez. Now, this is Zelfa Barrett's most recent fight from a show in Manchester a couple of weeks ago. It's his as he starts his comeback trial from that loss to Ronnie Clark. So that's Zelfa Barrett. Make sure you tune in for that. Catch up with how the Brown Flash is getting on. Friday at 7 o'clock, Bunce's Boxing Hour. Free to air, Sky Channel 427. It's Steve Bunce. He'll be previewing, he'll be reviewing, and Barry Jones will be with him. Barry Jones, by the way, might be the funniest man in boxing. He's saying a lot of things in commentary at the moment, which are really making me chuckle. So have a look out for that. That's Sky Channel 427, free to air. Friday, 9 o'clock, A Fight to Remember. Frank Warren is in the studio to look back on Prince Nassim Hamed against Steve Robinson for the WBO World Featherweight title, 1995. Steve, you were probably there, weren't you?
I was there, mate. It was in the I think it was the little rugby ground not little, about 20,000 next to Cardiff. Where the Millennium Stadium is now, you had the Cardiff Arms Park, and you had where Cardiff Rugby Union Club played on the stadium behind it, and that held about 20,000, and that was a sensational night there. A superstar was born that night for sure. Absolute one of the when you bow out of this sport, that would be one of the top 10 nights. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, watch that back with Frank Warren Friday at 9 o'clock. It's A Fight to Remember, and it was a fight to remember. Now, Saturday, 7 o'clock, it's here. It's live from the O2 Arena. It's Martin Murray against Roberto Garcia. It's Anthony Yard. It's Ahara Davis. It's Daniel Dubois. It's all on BoxNation, and it's going to be a cracking night. Steve, what fight are you most excited about on that fight card?
I'm excited about the Martin Murray fight against Garcia. I think it's a really good, tough man fight between two high-end blue-collar boxers. You know what? And what makes it even more crucial, the next loss for both of them will most probably be the last. I mean, Martin made it clear that if he'd lost to Billy Joe Saunders, that would have been it. And I'm sure it's going to be the same if he loses to Roberto Garcia. Roberto Garcia's just come off the win against Omar Chavez to give him that WBC ranking and heading towards a WBC world title fight, hopefully. And he can't afford to lose, especially at his age when he's 38 years of age. So much on the line. Two tough, hard men in a crossroads fight where the winner's got a lot to look forward to still, even at the tail end of their career, and the loser's got nothing to look forward to.
Well, it is high stakes indeed this Saturday night. Now, we're adding fights all the time. Make sure you're following us on social media so you know exactly what's going on. Now, last week, check this one out. BoxNation and MTK Global announced a 12-fight deal. So that's 12 cracking UK shows. And one thing we know about the MTK shows, they're always very well matched, and you deliver some real small hall classics there. Steve, tell me about this MTK BoxNation link-up.
Yeah, well, we've had quite a few MTK shows on the channel over the years. And not only do we have, the best in the world boxing, like Terence Crawford, Vasyl Lomachenko, they're ours. They belong to us in Britain, but they belong to BoxNation, their fights. But MTK, just look how many fighters they're signing. They are so ambitious, and there's 12. I think it's a 12-fight deal over 12 months. First one's on Friday, August 24, and I can't think of the name of the arena. It's the big one. It's one of the big ones in Glasgow. Is it called the SSE? I'm not sure. It's the big one near. It's the big one near Celtics ground.
Is that the Hydro? Is that the one?
The Hydro. You've got it. Yeah. You know everything, Deb. Yeah. They've hired that, so that fits a lot of people. So you can be sure that's going to be big-time boxing on BoxNation.
There's also a couple of more world title fights we added to the schedule. 7th of July, we've got Babet Shumenov against Alton Kaya. That's a WBA World Cruiserweight title. 28th of July, we've got Christopher Diaz against Ito, and that's going to be for the vacant WBO World Super Featherweight title. So, we're not stopping. We're not going anywhere. We're Gennady Golovkin. We're in your face. We keep coming forward. We're not backing up. We do not fight on the back foot. So keep an eye on what we're doing here at BoxNation, because we're not playing about. Keep those iTunes reviews coming in as well. Steve, I'm going to read a couple out here. I've found that what actually happens is if I read some out on the show, it actually encourages more reviews. So a bit of a good thing we've got going on there. Here's one. Dev gets annoying. 4 stars. Brilliant podcast with great reviews, but Dev drives me nuts. His voice goes through me. Steve, thoughts?
Your voice don't go through me. We speak every day, and hearing your voice is like music to my my ears. The only voice that's better than me is when all the football fans are around me when Fulham score.
Oh, well, that's high praise, and that's all the validation that I need. We've got another one here from King Southpaw. He said, best of the best, smashing it. Keep up the good work, with a wink. So we'll take that. We'll take the wink as well. Do you want to give him a wink back, Steve? Sort of.
I'm winking now as I look at a bottle of water.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much for the review, King Southpaw. Here's another one from MJ Logistics. He says, top show. He gave us 5 stars. He said he listens to the podcast when he's on a night shift. It's a proper show with humour also. So nice words. Thank you.
Top man. Enjoy your night shifts, mate. I wouldn't like to be doing them. Well done.
Yeah, very good. So, Steve, another week, another great show. Martin Murray, Harvey Horn, Carl Frampton, Umar Sadiq, loads more. How did you find it?
Loved it as also, and great hearing from Martin Murray, getting back to the right frame of mind after the Billy Joe Saunders setback.
Absolutely. He's been through a lot, but I'm sure he's going to come out the other side. Remember to tweet us any comments at BoxNation TV, at Steve Lillis, at Sonny Dev, and remember to subscribe to the best boxing channel in the world. It's 24/7 boxing at BoxNation. You subscribe via the website. It's boxnation.com. You want to watch it on your laptop. If you want to watch it on your phone, you want to watch it on your iPad, go to watch.boxnation.com. Just keep us on your screens. Keep us in front of you, because we're not going anywhere, and we're bringing you boxing all the time.